Chapter 10, Facility and Equipment. Our learning objectives: to identify the facility design and material standards, recognize the equipment installation and certification requirements, apply the lighting, plumbing, and ventilation rules that we're going to learn about, and conduct and document facility inspections too. So our facility design principles: the layout must allow easy cleaning and food flow. What does that mean by food flow? So when we have food coming in the back door from our deliveries, we shouldn't have the cooking area immediately next to it, and then the cooling area over on the far side, and then the storage area somewhere in the middle. There should be a flow of how it works. Our storage should be close to where it comes in, so there should be an inspection area so I can inspect things, and then I go through and I put things away in the appropriate places: refrigerated, frozen, ambient. And then after that, there should be it should then flow through to where it's going to be prepared, and then where it's going to be cooked. Things shouldn't be crossing back and forth, right? Otherwise, that's when we get more cross-contamination issues happening. So when we design a facility, we should be thinking about those kinds of things, and that's where we're talking about the actual food flow. Use smooth, durable, and non-absorbent materials, right? So that's for everything pretty much in our kitchen, including my shoes, right? My shoes should be non-absorbent, because otherwise boiling liquids could soak in and burn my feet. But that cutting board should be non-absorbent, so it's not soaking up liquids and harboring bacteria and giving them the moisture that they need. Things should be durable, strong, and long life, and they should be smooth, so that way I can wipe dirt off there and not be a harbor for bacteria. We're preventing cross-contamination between raw and ready-to-eat areas in our kitchen and our facility as a whole, and then maintain sufficient lighting, ventilation, and drainage to make sure that we have significantly enough capacity for what we require. So looking specifically at floors, walls, and ceilings. So my food prep and dish areas should be made of smooth, non-absorbent materials, easily cleanable. We should have sealed joints and coved bases. What's a coved base? On my wall and my floor.
Tight corners.
I'll give you a clue. I got a picture of it here because most people don't know what it means. So you see, when I have the wall and I have the floor, then I've got a right angle, right? It is a perfect harbor for bacteria and dirt and grease and grime. So if I have coved flooring going from the wall to the floor, where it literally goes around in a smooth angle, instead of it being a 90-degree angle, now I can sweep and mop and never have things getting caught in that crevice. That is coved, C-O-V-E-D, okay? So we want to have coved walls and floors to allow for deep cleaning that is easy, okay? That tends to come up in the exam a lot, and that tends to stump high school students, and it tends to stump people in professional areas as well, because the wording is not generally used everywhere. So in our dry storage, we should have sealed concrete or tile floors. We should be keeping everything 6 inches or more above the ground, not on shelving that's made of things like wood, because that's really easy for mice and rodents to crawl up. It should be on our wire racking type shelving. In our walk-in refrigerators and freezers, we should have coved metal panels with sealed seams, so there's nowhere for dirt to build up in there. And so we can also prevent mold from building up as well. And then on our ceilings, it should be light colored so that it reflects the light. We want it to be as light as possible so I can see the dirt. And you also want it to be smooth and washable. But they should be resistant to condensation as well. We shouldn't have grease and condensation dripping down off our ceilings or dripping down and oozing down the walls, because our ventilation system should be strong enough. That's generally the reason why we see things like that, though. If you have significant amounts of condensation building up on walls and ceilings, it's normally because our ventilation system isn't significant enough or it's not working properly. It's lighting. So when it comes to lighting, we measure it in foot candles. You've heard of of the watts in bulbs or lumens. There's lots of different measures of how bright bulbs are. What we look for is specifically called foot candles. These are the legal requirements for what you need. This tends to come up in the exam a lot. So in food preparation and utensil areas, 50 foot candles. That's generally the one that they ask about most, because that's the most important one, because that's where we're prepping up all the food. Hand washing and warewashing rooms, 20 foot candles. And then dry storage and dining areas, 10 foot candles. Make sure you keep fixtures shielded or shatter resistant. Generally speaking, so above our stove area in there, when you look at the light bulbs that are inside there, they're LED lights, but they're not just LED bulbs that are plugged in. If you look at them, they have a plastic covering over every single light bulb. That's to protect it from shattering. Because you imagine, if something happens and one of those gets smashed, and now there's glass and bits of light bulb all in our food, we've ruined everything. We'd have to dispose of everything that's in the vicinity. But we always have it shielded, or the actual bulbs have to be shatter resistant. Ventilation and air quality. We should be preventing grease, condensation, and odors. The hoods must capture and exhaust effectively. The filters and ducts should be cleaned regularly. And we should be avoiding airflow from contaminated areas into clean areas. That's why it should be pulling all of that out, including fumes from cooking as well, right? We don't want to have it if we're cooking things on gas. We want to pull all of those fumes from those carbons out from our building as well. But that should eliminate all of those things. If it doesn't, there's not sufficient enough exhaust going on. Plumbing and water supplies. So we provide potable water. What's potable water?
Drinkable.
Right, drinkable water from an approved source. No cross connections, using air gaps or vacuum breakers. Okay, we've got 3 things there. Let me explain it a little. So no cross connections. What is a cross connection? A cross connection is, say you may have worked in a kitchen before, that they would literally hose the floors down to rinse off the floors to get everything to go down the drains. So if you connect a hose is not a potable drinking supply, because once you make a hose wet on the inside, it will never ever, 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 ever be dry again. And what happens when you have things that are in dark spaces that are perpetually damp? You build up mold. Okay, it happens. It's unavoidable, really. Now, is it okay that I can hook up that hose and be able to use it within my kitchen to hose down the floor? Sure. Does my floor have to be sanitized?
No.
Why not?
It's not in contact with food.
Exactly. It's not in contact with food that we're going to be preparing and eating. So I'm okay with using that for the floor. This is the problem, though. Once I hook up that hose, that's what we call a cross connection. I'm connecting out something which is not a potable water supply, facility, onto what is my potable water supply. What can happen is when I turn off the tap, yes, the water stops flowing, but it is possible for some of that water to eke back into the water supply system. Then I turn on the tap on the other side of the kitchen, and that little bit of hose water that seeped its way back into the system is now going through your sink over here. Your sink over here is where you're cleaning your lettuce to go onto a salad, which is ready to eat. See where the problem is here? Right, we're now actually getting contamination into our water supply because of a cross connection. The best way to avoid a contamination to our water supply from a cross connection is to not have a cross connection. Okay. Now, if I need that though, right? So, because I've worked in kitchens before where we hook up a hose and we literally spray the floor down. After we mop it and clean it, we spray it down, and then we use squeegees to squeegee it clean. It makes the floor really clean. It's very effective, especially if you have a properly sealed in floor and everything. It's very effective. So what do? I will have a backflow prevention device put onto the tap. What is a backflow prevention device? It's literally, you can buy them. They're like a little cylinder kind of a thing, and all that's inside there is a valve that will only go one way. So when the water comes out from the potable water supply, it opens, and as soon as it's turned off, it closes. So it won't allow any seepage of water to go back into the supply. Okay, so a backflow prevention device is what you may need to use. When you look at air gaps or vacuum breakers, so this is where you see down here at the bottom of the sink. You may have noticed and wonder why it is that when you look in our kitchen and you look at all of the sinks, every sink, the actual drainage doesn't go all the way down. The pipe is cut off on an angle. Right, and when you first walked in, you may have been like, that's kind of weird. Because is anybody's home like that? No, right? You look under your sink in your kitchen, the pipe goes all the way down, and it feeds down into the drain system and out into the sewer system. But in places like this, and any commercial kitchens where we're producing food for other people, I must guarantee that nothing can back up into my sink. Because if we have a problem with our sewer lines and anything backs up, things can back up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm not working at 3 o'clock in the morning. The lights are off. Everyone's at home. And right now there's sewage backing up into my sink. But then by 5 o'clock in the morning, the sewage issue's gone back down. It's sunk back down. Because sewage doesn't just have to be like literally poop floating around. Right? Sewage can just be the actual liquid part of it. That may sink right back down again. I come into work at 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't see any problem. I may have no idea that my sink is completely contaminated with raw sewage that came up overnight and then sank back down. With this system, with our air gap, that can't happen because it's not gonna come back up into my sink. It's gonna go all over my floor, and it won't go back down again after that. It's just gonna be on my floor. So when I walk into my kitchen and there's literally raw sewage all over the floor, I know I've got to shut down, right? So because I've got an imminent health hazard going on. That's what we call it. We're going to get more to that, but that's what we call it. It's an imminent health hazard if I have something like raw sewage backing up into my kitchen. The backflow prevention is required on all fixtures to make sure that nothing from a non-potable supply can go back into our potable water supply. The backflow prevention device is required on all of those features. To avoid that, we must maintain water at 100, that part's wrong. That should be 85 degrees Fahrenheit for hand sinks and 110 for ware washing, right? Our hand sink, 85 degrees Fahrenheit for washing our hands, and then 110 Fahrenheit for washing, rinsing, sanitizing in our 3-pot sink, okay? Everybody good on what I just talked about? I know there was a lot of fresh knowledge, fresh information. That tends to come up at least probably about 2 questions tend to come up about these kinds of things, okay? Hand sink requirements. So they should be located in the prep, service, and dish areas conveniently so that I can get to it. Should be equipped with hot and cold water, soap, and disposable towels or a dryer. I should have the ability to turn the tap off without recontaminating my hands, and then used for hand washing only. It should not be used for storing dirty dishes in. It shouldn't be blocked up with any boxes. Nothing else should be around that. Always leave them completely accessible. And then it should be that the manager maintains those spaces too, to not allow anybody to dump, oh, we just got a fresh delivery of something, just dump it in front of the hand sink. Nope. That's a zone where nothing should ever be stacked. Dish machine installations. So we have a flow of how we should be working with our dish machine. So it should be installed to allow each of these steps. So we have dirty dishes that come in. We scrape the dishes. We wash the dishes. We rinse the dishes. We sanitize the dishes. We allow them to air dry. And we put them in clean storage. Nothing should switch back and forth. So whether this is a dish machine or if it's the 3-pot sink, then we should be making sure that nothing can come back to recontaminate something that's going in that direction, right? We start from the left, we go to the right, or we start from the right and go to the left, depending on how the machine's set up. But everything should always go in one direction, including drain boards before and after the machine as well. And then the sanitizing cycle on that hot dishwasher should be 180 Fahrenheit. Ensure a one-way flow from dirty to clean. Equipment standards must be NSF, which is approved by the ANSI. So they should be NSF certified. When you look at our sinks, there's a little round circle sign that says NSF. You look on our cutting boards, it says NSF. There's like little circles all over them that says NSF. So that means that it has been certified to be safe to use with all of our foods in a commercial environment. So food contact surfaces should be smooth, non-toxic, and corrosion resistant. Non-food surfaces should be durable and easy to clean. Thermometers should be accurate, within plus or minus 2 degrees Fahrenheit in cold units or 1 Fahrenheit in hot units, and they should be easily cleanable and durable. This is really important. That's what the NSF logo stands for, basically, is that it means that your piece of equipment is easy to clean and it's durable. I've had some different types of like food blenders and things like that, which are, there's lots of attachments to them. I'm talking about at home, lots of attachments to them and all sorts of different things I can do with it. And there's lots of nooks and crannies to to have to clean. It's a pain to use them because there's so many parts to it. When you look at all of our food blenders and things like that, it's generally 3, maybe 4 parts to most pieces of equipment we have. They have minimal parts to clean because it's easy to clean and they're durable. They last for a long time and they're easy to clean. Okay. Equipment installation. So we're looking at the type of equipment and the requirements. So floor-mounted equipment. So we're looking at, say, if you have like a large mixer that may sit on its own stand on the floor, must have at least 6-inch clearance so that various different pests can't get to it, but also so I can sweep and mop underneath it. If it's counter-mounted, say if I've got a large food mixer that goes on the counter, or if I've got a food slicer that goes on the counter. I'm not talking about a small one like we have in here. I'm talking about the large ones that don't get moved around frequently. Right? You must have at least a 4-inch clearance so you can reach your hands and arms underneath it to give it a proper wash, rinse, sanitize under there. Either that, or it must be sealed to the unit where there's no gap at all. Right? There's either no gap at all and it's sealed in, or there's a 4-inch gap so you can reach your arm in under there to wash, rinse, sanitize. Stationary equipment should be accessible for cleaning, or it should again be sealed to the surfaces again. Never block airflow around refrigeration units, right? If you look at our refrigerators, there's space at the back there to allow for airflow. If they can't breathe, then they'll break, they'll overheat and they'll go and break early, and they'll wear a lot quicker. And they also will struggle to keep the temperature down inside there as well. They need to be able to exhaust out all that hot air. Water and sewer systems. So they should be connected to approved municipal or private sources. They should maintain backflow prevention. We should be disposing of sewage via approved sanitary systems. No floor drains under equipment that trap debris should exist either. Waste and refuse control. So garbage should be covered in leak-proof containers, so it shouldn't be dripping all over our floor. Remove trash frequently to avoid pests. We won't want to be providing food for them. Keep dumpsters on graded, non-absorbent surfaces. So large dumpsters should be basically on a concrete pad. And then lids should be closed. Doors and loading docks should be tightly fitted. You get all sorts of raccoons and things will get into the trash if you leave that door open. Facility maintenance. We should maintain the building in good repair. Replace cracked tiles and damaged grouts. Grout is what's like between the tiles to make sure that there's a good seal on everything. Repair leaks and condensation promptly, and then conduct scheduled deep cleaning often. So when we're looking at our facility checklist, floors, walls, and ceilings should be inspected weekly. They should be smooth and intact and clean. Lighting and fixtures should be checked monthly. They should be working and shielded. Remember to protect them from shattering onto food. Hand and dish sinks should be cleaned daily and equipped and unobstructed. Equipped as in they should have the soap, they should have the hand towels, they should have the sign, they should have a trash can nearby to throw out the hand towels. Ventilation hoods should be inspected monthly. They should be grease-free and operating properly to sufficiently pull out any kind of grease in the air so things don't get condensation or anything growing on it. Equipment seals and legs should be checked weekly, tight with no gaps. Waste disposal areas should be checked daily. with clean lids kept closed, always kept closed. All you got to do is leave it open one night, and you've got all sorts of rodents and things joining you. Okay, let's have a few questions here. Hand sinks must provide water at what temperature? A, 85 degrees Fahrenheit or above. The minimum light level in food prep areas is how many foot candles? In the 50. You can hold it from it. Equipment installed on the floor must have legs that are at least how tall? 6 inches. Yep, see? The final rinse for a high temperature dish machine should be at least what temperature? 180 Fahrenheit. All food contact equipment must be A. Yep. NSF, ANSI certified to make sure it's durable and cleanable. All right, so our manager's responsibility, we should be verifying the facility and equipment meet the design standards, schedule preventative maintenance, conduct and document inspections, and report structural or equipment defects immediately. So what did we learn today? We learned that facility layout and equipment design affect the sanitation. We should be maintaining correct lighting, ventilation, plumbing, and drainage. Use certified, properly installed equipment, and keep inspection records current. And that's chapter 10.